Good afternoon, folks, and thank you for allowing us to have a little bit of time. We've got one of our latest members who were voted in this past Wednesday, of course, for the class of 2017. Rick Hendrick, Richard Childress will be here tomorrow. Of course, Benny Parsons and Raymond Parks also a part of the class of 2017, along with our landmark award winner H. Clay Earls. But we're delighted to have us with us by way of Arkansas and Indiana. Member of the 2017 class. He won 96 times in the National Series. Mark Martin's joining us today. Mark, we can get you to take a seat. And we're also pleased to have with us the chairman and CEO of Speedway Motorsports, or Charlotte Motor Speedway, and the CEO of Speedway Motorsports, Marcus Smith. Marcus, appreciate you joining us. And Mark, would like to start with you. That, you know, you have said, I have heard you quoted not just earlier this morning, that had you been on the voting panel, you may have voted differently. So I'm glad you weren't on the voting panel.
Yeah, me too. But
your reaction to being selected into the NASCAR Hall of Fame and how it has evolved just over the past 3 days as it started to settle in and the feeling of that?
it is settling in some, but you know, I still haven't you know, completely absorbed it all. The NASCAR Hall of Fame, you know, I've been a big supporter of from the get-go. It is so important as we move forward to our sport, as we move forward, to preserve, you know, the history and the people that were there before us, and the people that paved the way for the current competitors and the future competitors and fans as well. It is so important, and there are so many people in the NASCAR Hall of Fame that there are my heroes, that it's pretty incredible to think that I'm going to join them in that hall. It's something that I didn't expect, you know, to happen in my lifetime. So it's happened sooner than I would have ever dreamed, if it would happen at all. And this is a real special class because no, I didn't know Raymond Parks. You know, Benny Parsons had a hand in my career, as a person, as a competitor, as a friend who, and a friend to the sport, as well as Mr. Hendrick, the incredible person that he is, the character that he has, integrity, and he had a hand in my getting into the Hall of Fame. And of course, Richard Childress, who was a driver struggling, you know, that started out with a $20 car, and when I first came to NASCAR, he was driving what I would consider not a really nice car, to put it lightly. So, you know, and then to see him achieve what he's achieved and be in there as well. It's a real special class. Every class is really special, but this one has personal connection, quite a bit of personal connection to it.
You know, we've been fortunate in that regard that there's been some connections we didn't anticipate, and sometimes you'd rather be lucky than good in that regard. Speaking of personal connections, Marcus Smith, who was front and center along with his dad last year for the class of 2016, or actually this year, but there's always been a lot of talk about the double Indianapolis and the Coke 600, and we've got a unique part of that this weekend as well that you guys have put together.
We do. Well, you know, first of all, to be sitting next to you, Mark, you're one of my heroes growing up watching you race around Charlotte Motor Speedway and winning so many races here. I'm just thrilled that you are here, and it doesn't surprise me at all as one of your fans that you were busy doing something else, not even thinking that you were going to get voted in, because you're a humble champion, and I think that's what so many millions of your fans really loved and still love about you. And so when you were announced, very shortly after that, a few of my closest people said, we need to ask him to drive the pace car for the Coca-Cola 600. And how fitting, the 57th running of the Coca-Cola 600, and to have you the same week as you're announced for the Hall of Fame makes it just fantastic for us. And I heard you quickly said yes, and then to know that you're going to be doing 1,100 miles on Sunday, that is such a neat thing, and I think it's one of the greatest things as a fan. You said, and I'll let you talk about it, but how cool would that be to be able to do what you're going to do? Plus, the pace car is super cool, but I think it's just great that you're going to be able to enjoy the 100th Indy 500 and come here and enjoy the 57th Coca-Cola 600. Thank you so much. I think you're going to pass the driving test just fine, and look forward to having you lead the field tomorrow for the 57th running of the Coke 600.
Well, thank you, Marcus, and you know, this is a real special place, and it always has been. And for the people that have followed me, they know that this was really my favorite racetrack a lot of my career, and it's really special with having all the teams here. You know, all the way back when I first came here in 1981 to race. It was just an amazing place, and it's really cool to be back. This is my first race that I've been to since Homestead 2013, when I hung up the helmet, and it really feels cool to be back and to be a part of this. It's an incredible privilege, an honor, and I'm extremely humbled by the opportunity to be a part of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, and look forward to being here today and tomorrow. And it's good to see everybody here. By the way, I want to explain that for me, you know, looking at my windshield is very exciting right now. When I look at my rearview mirror, it is a very foggy view of driving race cars. So I just want you to, you know, like, I'm cool with what's in my windshield right now. Really cool and really excited. But that being said, I'm saying I don't miss driving race cars, but I have missed the people. I've missed, and more, the longer it's gone, the more I've missed. In the last 2 months, I've really noticed that I miss the fans, I miss the competitors, and I miss the members of the media and the journalists and all that were at the racetrack that were my family. I do miss that, and yet I didn't really feel like I had I didn't feel like I had a place. When I drove, a race car, there was a place for me here, and I felt kind of awkward about attending a race, being that I don't work on a car or drive a race car anymore. So this is a real cool opportunity for me to get back and connect with my family, what was my family for 30 years.
Mark, can I ask you, Winston, I want to take your place in the questions.
Now, this is your house. Ours is down the road. You go right ahead.
I want to ask you, we have this thing, we call it undercover general manager. It's kind of like undercover boss on TV a little bit, and our general managers out of the 8 speedways, we all go to a race during the season as fans. We take off the credentials and buy tickets and stay in a motorhome and just try to enjoy it as a fan. And are you going to be doing some of that over this weekend? Are you going to be able to enjoy the race? You haven't been back since you hung up the helmet. You're not going to be driving in the race, but how much of a fan are you, and are you going to be able to enjoy that?
I watch virtually every race. The races that I can't watch on television, I follow on Twitter. I have been very active the last year, extremely active. I've done a lot of traveling. Sometimes when I'm driving a motorhome or something like that and not able to watch the race, I can still have Arlene keep me updated with what's going on. That being said, I watch every race that I can. I DVR a race if I miss it. This year, I have missed very few races. And by the way, I just want to say the racing has been incredible in 2016.
Yeah.
And bravo. And hoorah!
Yeah.
Since the mid '90s, I've been screaming, "You guys are going the wrong way with this downforce," and the racing is really, really getting better.
Yeah.
And I want to give a big shout out also to Goodyear because it was not only taking downforce off. Mm-hmm. Goodyear is a huge part in making the racing more fun, which meant making a race tire that would give up, that would wear out or give up, mm-hmm. which wouldn't be in your natural instincts.
Right.
So they're making tires that are making great racing for us,
yeah.
not the tire that will start off fast and run fast all day and won't slow down. They're making us. They're doing a great job. Need to be commended and need some credit for what they're doing as well.
Absolutely.
Well, speaking of windshield, and we've missed you too, just got word for you looking out the windshield tomorrow night. NASCAR and Buster Alton have approved you to drive the pace car, so we're glad that we're able to share that. I'm sure it wasn't a huge hurdle to overcome. We've got some mic, and I mean that with all your success here, how could they deny that?
Oh,
I mean, come on.
Just that coming from Buster, I love it. I love Buster with all my heart.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, questions that we have here. We'll start up front and then go to Bob and then over here. Got a lot of questions. We'll start up here with Stan.
Stan Creekmore with RPMTonight.com. Mark, number one, it's awesome to see you.
Thank you.
Number two, thank you. There's a Houston State police officer who didn't give me a ticket because he loves you. He thinks you're the greatest racer ever.
Awesome.
When you look at your entire life, what's the greatest moment that just stands out above everything else?
Oh, gosh. Well, we've got to classify that as career or life. Career, I think, is what you were really referring to. Really, my family's, is the biggest, the thing I'm most proud of in my life. But gosh, my first answer would be Wednesday. That text I got Wednesday when I was cleaning the bugs off the front of my motorhome. The greatest sense of pride I have is not what I accomplished when I started driving for Jack Roush to the day I hung the helmet up in 2013. It is really what happened before I got the ride at Jack Roush's. 1981, the IROC series, some of the crown jewels that made that possible, especially the 1981 5 Cup races, the car that we built. There's a lot of good old stories there that that I like to tell because it's fascinating. It's quite different now because you don't have the leeway. A guy could never, from Indiana, that was living and racing in Indiana, could not do that today. Build a Cup car, and make it special and make it fast enough that they could sit on the pole in the third race they entered. So that's an interesting story, and it's something I'm really proud of.
Okay, we'll go to Bob, and then we'll go over here.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. Mark, many people would probably think it's crazy to think that you thought you don't belong in the garage even after you're not racing. So I'm curious why, and then how much do you think this, just being a Hall of Famer and this selection, maybe will make you feel more comfortable coming back to races?
I think that there are a lot of race car drivers that are normal in the head, but some of us have, are a little bit mental, and I'm not claiming that that my thinking is correct, but when you no longer drive a race car, what use are you, in the garage? I mean, you don't feel like, after you've been a race car driver, so you're going to hang around and tell somebody that might or might not want to know what happened 30 years ago out there it's just, it's weird. I just didn't feel like I really had I didn't feel like I had a place, in, when you're a driver, that's your deal. That's what you do, and that's what you're focused on. You've seen it. I've complained about this in the past. Once drivers step out of the race car, the hole closes behind them, and they're gone. And if you notice, Ricky Rudd's gone. Terry Labonte, prior to the Hall of Fame, was pretty much, missing. And driver upon driver upon driver, each one that quit racing, you'd never heard from them again. And there's a reason for that. It's because nothing really compares to what they did do, and it's hard for them to come to the racetrack when they don't feel like they have something to contribute.
Okay, and we'll go here and then back to Hill. And if there are any questions up in the press box, let us know.
Zach Catanzarelli, Front Stretch. You've gotten so many congratulations, so many pats on the back the last few days. What is that? Describe that acknowledgement and what it means to you. And was there any one that really stood out to you?
Oh yes, there's quite a few that stood out to me. But I got a text from Jimmy Johnson that that is incredible, and I would love to share, but it was sent to me in private, and that is what it is. But it was unbelievable, and I also got one from Matt Kenseth that was pretty unbelievable as well, and those two I screenshot, for life. They were preserved forever for me. But there are a lot of others. There have been some people that that I have missed. It's been pretty much a whirlwind since Wednesday afternoon, so I've missed a good bit. But there have been some really cool stuff. Those were really special because of the people that they are and what they've accomplished. It meant a lot coming from them.
Okay, we'll go Hill, then one from up in the press box, then Al and Nate.
Hill Overton, WIXC Radio. Mark, great to see you. Welcome to another member of the old guard like myself. It's wonderful having you here. You've always said that not winning that championship was not going to be a breaking thing for you, something you would not, go to your grave lamenting too badly. But that one that got away, when you had, I thought, the championship year, and of course the intake manifold, as I recall, something that NASCAR didn't quite like about it. How much do you think about that, the one that did get away that probably you should have had?
First of all, it's great to see you, Hill. I still don't grieve over that. I don't think about it very much. I have always said, and it still is very true today, for the people that wanted me to win a championship or a Daytona 500 so badly, I look at them and say, but how would my life be different today if I'd won none? And I don't believe it would be any different. However, I do feel that the NASCAR Hall of Fame induction will change my life in a small way. I feel like that is, it speaks, because I don't have a championship and I don't have a Daytona 500. So the only way I got in there was by, it speaks to a body of work that covers 30 or 35 years that body of work, and I got in just one little piece at a time, you know, and so that's significant to me, and I think that I will be more remembered for being a NASCAR Hall of Famer than I would be to have, you know, won that championship in 1990. Another thing about that 90 championship now, it was only my, you know, third try at it. You know, I thought it was going to come. You know, I was 31 years old, you know, and we started Roush Racing in 88. In 89, we were third in the points, second going into the last race, and blew up and finished third. The next year, we scored more points, but had a penalty. I thought it was going to come soon. So I never really sweated it through the 90s. And then once I got to 2000, I saw the end coming in sight. I allowed, because I wanted it so bad, I allowed it to take the fun out. And I wish I hadn't have done that.
Got time for two more, Al and Nate.
Mark, Al Pierce at Auto Week. The other day on the conference call you mentioned, well, I'm sorry, Al Pierce with Auto Week. The other day on the conference call to the Hall of Fame building, you mentioned that when you left here the first time, you were a broken man. Your term.
Yep.
Is it too painful to explain to us how broken you were and how you got fixed? Or is that better for a private type deal?
Well, I think it's a very long story, and everyone, reality to any individual, reality is not as important to them as their perception. You follow that? You know, so you perceive things sometimes when they're not, when someone sitting next to you would say that's not accurate, okay? My perception was that at an extremely young age, I became the youngest national champion, you know, in the ASA series, which was very booming at the time for late model racing, at 19 years old. And I won it 3 years in a row. And it was pretty big. It was a pretty big deal at that time. I built a cup car with no help from Southern as far as, yeah, we hung the body down here. But, you know, for the most part, the car was built in Indiana, where my late model shop was, and it was built on our principles. And so when we did those 5 races, and we had a 3rd, a 7th, and a 11th place finish, and 2 poles, and the worst ever qualified out of those 5 races was 6th, it looked like it was going to be as easy as ASA. And I was young, and I had never stumped my toe. And you follow the momentum that I might be feeling at 21 years old, 22 years old. So I had a reason to be cocky, but I shouldn't have been. And I use that term to try to tell you where I was. I did not know failure, and I wasn't afraid of failure, because I thought I controlled my destiny. And that's what I'm trying to say. And when I bombed and failed so miserably in '82, that was tough. And up until that point, I had owned all my own stuff. Car, truck, trailer, had my employees, we did our thing. At the end of that, so I had accumulated tools, parts, and pieces, and all the equipment that it took to do that kind of racing. And when I failed in 1982, I had a large amount of debt. You know, Goodyear let me have a lot of credit to finish out the season. Hutchison-Pagan let me have a lot of credit to finish out the season. I didn't have the money to pay. So when the season was over, I had an auction and sold everything I owned. All of it, toolbox and everything. And I paid my debts off. And so now I didn't have one tool, and I didn't have, you know, anything to start my career back over with. And so economically I was broken, but emotionally I was broken as well. And had I not been broken like that, I would have never, ever become the person that I am today I would be a different person, and I wouldn't want to think about being, being that different person. That had a profoundly a positive effect on me, but it wasn't positive for years. And to get to your point there at the end, well, how did I redeem that? That first win in 1989 in Victory Lane, if you'll look back, I said I feel like that that my life is I don't even remember what I said, but it was like complete, because I had devoted so much and so hard to get there, and because people saw that I had talent in '81 here, and yet they stood back and watched me fail and watched me go away, and didn't offer a hand to say, hey, look, we want you to stay. We'll do this for you, or we'll let you drive this car, or whatever. So when I came back, when Jack Roush gave me the second chance, and we ran second 5 times before we finally got that first win felt like my life was complete. My life's mission was complete at that point. And I'm not saying that was a turning point, because it was very important for me to continue to win races, but that one deal meant that everything that I'd gone through and the hardship that I endured personally for feeling like a failure and all had been worth it all, because we finally did it. And I'm glad that I went through that, because it definitely helped shape me.
We're definitely glad you came back. Last one to Nate Ryan.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Mark, whenever a driver attempts the Indy 500 and the Coca-Cola 600 in the same day, there's always a lot of focus on the logistics and the months of planning that goes into getting back and forth. I know you're an accomplished pilot and you're not racing cars, but the scramble of going back and forth from here to Indy twice in 2 days, how did you make all of that happen over the last few days?
It could be a nightmare if you're driving race cars. That for sure. I can't imagine having that. I can't imagine what Kurt Busch, what Kurt Busch did last year was amazing. Was definitely something Kurt Busch, or one of the Busch brothers, not everybody could do. It was amazing what he did. But so what I did was I drove my motorhome to Indy Wednesday, and got the call. I was already parked in Indy because I left early because I wanted to get up there and get settled in. So so my plane, I'm fortunate enough that we do have a pilot for my airplane in Arkansas, because my partner uses it as well, and so I don't want to have to be his pilot. So we have a pilot. So he brought Arlene and Matt Thursday. They left around noon and came to Indy and picked me up. Came over here, and we're doing this today, and when we finish up here, I'm going to go get with him, and we're going to go back to Indy. He's going to drop me off, and he's going to go home. And NASCAR is going to have a plane up there tomorrow, and I'm hitching back with the NASCAR plane. So, and then I'm going to stay over here for the week. I've got doing Race Hub and NASCAR America, I think, and some other things while we're here next week. So we're going to enjoy being in Charlotte. I've spent most of my time in Arkansas right now, and so we don't get over here as much as we'd like to. So we're going to enjoy, being here and having some good restaurants and great grocery stores and stuff like that. It's kind of rural where we're at. We might even have time to catch a movie too. So.
Well, Mark, we know that was a lot of juggling on your part to make all this work, not just for us at the NASCAR Hall of Fame, but for the Coke 600, and to be back tomorrow as the pace car driver. And we know that you've got to go up there. We could sit here and ask questions. We're going to have plenty more opportunities like this, but thank you so much for making the extraordinary effort to be here today, for our fans at the Hall of Fame, for the folks here at the Speedway, for the media here, and then back tomorrow for your fans and for Marcus. So congratulations. Thank you so much. And Marcus, I know you're pretty busy too, so thanks for joining us today.
This has been great to have a front row seat for this interview. I love hearing these stories. That was great.
If you've got, do we have just one more minute?
We're on your time.
I'd like to
We'll
share.
stay as long
I'd
as
like to
you
share
want
one
to.
more thing. Ryan McGee. I had was fortunate enough to have dinner with Ryan and Marty Smith and all Wednesday evening, and he told a story, and it kind of made me think. So I want to take this opportunity to apologize to the members here that are here that I was either rude or ugly to at any point in my career. Ryan told me a story, and he told me a story about, when he was 25 or whatever, and he ran up to me at the California Speedway with some kind of question when we were testing, and he told me what my reaction was. And anyway, you look, to explain, when you are a race car driver, you see the world through different lenses. Believe me. I see the world through different lenses today than I did when I drove a race car. And I just want to tell everybody that I have missed you guys, and I apologize if I was ever ugly in the heat of the moment, because I was more interested in what was going on in my mind than talking to you guys about it, if that ever happened. So it was a pretty interesting. Then I asked him, I said, well, did you ever, do you have any other stories? And then he started telling me stories of the other guys, and I didn't feel so bad, because he seemed to think that I only did that to him once, and Ray Everhand did it to him twice, and all these other guys did it more than that. So it was pretty cool, but it was a neat story. I'll certainly make myself available. This is an incredible honor for me to be a part of, and I will look forward to seeing you guys more often in the future.
Well, thanks for sharing that, but also I think we realize we have more immediate access than any other sport, and we're coming into your office a lot of time asking questions. I think there's a great respect there, but sincerely appreciate you being here, and I know we'll have plenty more opportunities for more stories. I am really looking forward to these, just like Marcus.
Me too.
Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.